Most people don't realize that your 50s are quietly one of the most consequential decades of your entire life. Not your 20s, when you're building your career. Not your 30s, when you're raising your family. Your 50s, because in your 50s, you still feel capable, you still feel young enough, and because of that, you make decisions as if you have unlimited time left to fix things. And that feeling, that comfortable, deceiving feeling, is exactly where the regrets are born. I've spoken with hundreds of people in their 70s and 80s over the years. And when you ask them, truly ask them, not what they're proud of, but what they wish they had done differently, the answers are almost never about money. They're almost never about career success. What comes up, again and again, are the quiet choices. The things they didn't think mattered. The appointments they skipped. The conversations they avoided. The habits they told themselves they'd fix later. And here's what makes this so important. Most of those regrets? They were entirely preventable. Not with some extraordinary effort. Not with a radical life change. Just with better information and a little bit of honest self-awareness at the right time. So if you're in your 50s right now, pay close attention. And if you're already past that, this video may explain a lot. Either way, what you're about to hear could genuinely change the years ahead of you. Here's something that rarely gets talked about. The decisions you make between the ages of 50 and 65 don't just affect those years. They ripple forward, sometimes for 2 or 3 decades. Your health habits in your 50s shape the body you'll be living in at 75. Your financial choices in your 50s determine the kind of independence you'll have at 80. The relationships you nurture or neglect in your 50s become the support system, or the loneliness, waiting for you in your later years. We often think of aging as something that happens to us, but the research increasingly shows that it's something we actively participate in, mostly through choices we make long before we feel old. The trouble is, your 50s come with a kind of false security. You feel healthy enough. You feel busy. You tell yourself the serious planning can wait just a little longer. That's not laziness, it's human nature. Psychologists call it present bias. We consistently overvalue what's in front of us today and undervalue what's coming years from now. And that tendency is most dangerous right in the middle of your life. In this video, you're going to hear from the perspective of someone who is 75, looking back. The things that seemed unimportant, the warnings that were easy to dismiss, the habits that seemed harmless, and what they actually cost. Some of these will surprise you. Some will make you nod slowly. And some might make you want to pick up the phone and make a call you've been putting off. Let's get into it. 1. Ignoring the subtle signs my body was sending. When I was in my 50s, I had aches I explained away. A little stiffness in the morning that I called just getting older. Some shortness of breath I blamed on being out of shape. Fatigue I chalked up to a busy schedule. I wasn't ignoring obvious emergencies. I was dismissing quiet signals. And that distinction matters enormously. Here's what most people don't know. Many of the most serious conditions that show up in your 70s, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, autoimmune disorders, begin developing silently in your 50s. The American Heart Association has noted that cardiovascular changes can begin accumulating years, even decades, before a person ever feels chest pain or gets a diagnosis. Your body is often speaking in a whisper long before it starts to shout. The regret isn't about skipping a single doctor's appointment. It's about building a habit of dismissal. Once you train yourself to explain away symptoms, that habit sticks. And what you explain away at 53 can become the crisis you're managing at 71. The practical lesson here is simple but not easy. Become a better listener to your own body. Not an anxious, hypochondriac listener, but an honest one. When something feels different, write it down. Track it. Bring it to your doctor not with embarrassment, but with curiosity. And never, ever let a doctor dismiss something you feel is real without a second opinion. You know your body better than anyone. What's coming next ties directly into this, because it turns out the most important health habit you could build in your 50s has nothing to do with medicine at all. 2. Underestimating what physical inactivity would cost me. I thought staying active meant the gym, and I didn't love the gym. So I told myself I was fairly active. I walked the dog, I did yard work, I took the stairs sometimes. What I didn't understand is that there's a massive biological difference between incidental movement and intentional, consistent exercise that elevates your heart rate and challenges your muscles. Research from the National Institute on Aging and multiple long-term studies has shown that muscle mass begins declining at roughly 1% per year starting in your 50s, a process called sarcopenia. That doesn't sound dramatic, but over 20 years, it adds up to a body that is significantly weaker, significantly more prone to falls, and significantly harder to recover from illness. Falls, by the way, are one of the leading causes of serious injury and loss of independence among Americans over 70. And the foundation of fall prevention is muscle strength, built years earlier. What I wish I'd known is that the exercise habits you build in your 50s are the single most powerful investment you can make in your functional independence at 80. Not savings, not supplements, not anything else comes close. A landmark Harvard study following people over decades found that regular moderate exercise in midlife was strongly associated with longer periods of healthy, independent living later. Not just longer life, but better life. And here's what's genuinely surprising. You don't need hours in a gym. Research consistently supports that 150 minutes of moderate activity per week, that's about 20 minutes a day, combined with 2 sessions of light resistance training significantly changes your aging trajectory. 20 minutes. That's one episode of a television show. The window doesn't close at 60 or 70. It's never too late to start. But starting at 52 instead of 72 gives your body 20 years to build something worth having. 3. Treating sleep like it was negotiable. This one surprised me most when I finally understood it. In my 50s, I wore my ability to function on less sleep like a badge of honor. 6 hours was fine. Sometimes 5. I had things to do. What I didn't know, what almost nobody told me, is that sleep is not rest for your brain. It's maintenance. During deep sleep, your brain activates a system called the glymphatic system, which functions essentially like a washing cycle, clearing out metabolic waste products that build up during the day. One of those waste products is amyloid beta, a protein strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease. Research published in respected neuroscience journals has found that even one night of significantly disrupted sleep leads to measurable increases in amyloid accumulation. Chronic sleep deprivation over years creates conditions that researchers believe accelerate cognitive aging. This doesn't mean poor sleep in your 50s guarantees dementia. Science is never that simple. But the relationship is real, documented, and ignored by most people until it's far too late to undo the pattern. Beyond brain health, chronic short sleep in midlife has been linked to elevated cortisol, increased inflammation, impaired immune response, and higher cardiovascular risk. Sleep isn't the lazy option. It's the biological necessity your 50-year-old body desperately needs, and your busy schedule keeps stealing from it. What changed things for me? Too late, unfortunately, was treating sleep with the same seriousness I gave to other health priorities. A consistent bedtime, a dark, cool room, no screens in the hour before sleep. Not because of some wellness trend, but because the science is unambiguous. Your brain cleans itself while you sleep, and if you're not sleeping, it isn't cleaning. 4. Letting important friendships quietly fade. Nobody sits down and decides to let friendships die. It happens gradually, and it happens because life in your 50s is genuinely busy. The kids, the career, the parents who now need care, the spouse, the mortgage, everything crowds in. And friendships, which require intentional time and no immediate urgency, get pushed further and further to the edge until one day you realize you haven't spoken to someone you once called your closest friend in 3 years. What I didn't understand then is what researchers now study extensively. Social isolation is not just emotionally painful. It is physically dangerous. A major analysis published by Brigham Young University researchers found that loneliness and social isolation increased the risk of premature death by roughly 26 to 29%, comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. That number stops people in their tracks when they hear it. The hidden mechanism is inflammation. Chronic loneliness triggers the body's stress response in a persistent, low-grade way. elevating inflammatory markers that damage blood vessels, impair immune function, and accelerate cellular aging. Your body reads loneliness as a survival threat, because for most of human history, being cut off from your tribe was genuinely life-threatening. And here's the crueler irony. Rebuilding deep friendships after 70 is genuinely hard. Not impossible, but hard. The friendships that provide real comfort, real history, real intimacy, those take decades to build. When you let them lapse in your 50s, you're not just losing a friend. You're eroding something that takes years to reconstruct and may never quite be replaced. The advice is uncomfortable but necessary. Schedule your friendships the way you schedule your medical appointments. Not casually, not, "we should get together sometime," but with a real date and a real plan. The people worth keeping in your life are worth that small effort. 5. Not having honest conversations about money early enough. I'm not talking about whether you saved enough. That's a separate conversation. I'm talking about something subtler and more damaging, avoiding the real financial conversations entirely. In my 50s, I didn't want to sit down and calculate what retirement would actually look like. I didn't want to have the uncomfortable conversation with my spouse about what we each expected. I didn't want to face the gap between what I imagined and what the numbers actually showed. So I told myself there was time. There was always time. Here's what that avoidance cost. Financial anxiety in your 60s and 70s, even when you have some savings, is one of the most significant predictors of poor health outcomes in older adults. Not just stress, but measurable physical effects. Higher blood pressure, poorer sleep, suppressed immune function, higher rates of depression. The American Psychological Association's annual stress surveys have consistently ranked financial worry among the top stressors for older Americans. And the window for adjusting your trajectory is genuinely larger in your 50s than most people realize. Increasing your savings rate, adjusting your investment strategy, downsizing, making decisions about Social Security timing, evaluating long-term care insurance. All of these options become significantly more constrained as you move through your 60s and into retirement. The decisions you defer in your 50s become the limitations you live with in your 70s. The practical step isn't glamorous. Sit down with a fee-only financial planner, not someone paid on commission, and look at the real numbers together. Have the conversation even when it's uncomfortable. The discomfort of a 2-hour meeting in your 50s is far smaller than the anxiety of financial uncertainty at 78. 6. Neglecting my mental health and emotional well-being. This is the one I find hardest to talk about because it carries the most shame for many people in my generation. In my 50s, I experienced periods of real anxiety and what I now recognize was mild depression. But I didn't name it that way. I called it stress, or a rough patch, or just life. I didn't seek help. I managed it with distraction, with work, with television, with staying busy enough that I didn't have to sit quietly with my own thoughts. And I told myself that therapy was for people with real problems. What I know now is that untreated emotional distress in your 50s does not simply resolve itself. Research from Columbia University and other institutions has found strong links between chronic depression and anxiety in midlife and increased cognitive decline in later years. The mechanisms involve cortisol dysregulation, inflammation, and structural changes in areas of the brain involved in memory. It's not just that depression makes you feel bad. It changes your brain over time. Beyond the neurological effects, there's something simpler and just as important. The way you relate to yourself, your self-compassion, your ability to process difficulty, your emotional flexibility. These things determine how well you adapt to the inevitable losses of later life. The loss of people you love, the loss of physical capacity, the loss of roles that gave your life structure. People who have built emotional resilience handle those transitions. People who haven't can be devastated by them. Seeking help for your emotional health is not weakness. In the context of everything we now know about the mind-body connection, it is one of the most rational, protective decisions you can make. 7. Not protecting my vision and hearing. I'm putting this in because almost no one talks about it, and almost everyone I know over 70 wishes they had paid attention earlier. I spent years at loud events without ear protection. I spent years in bright sunlight without quality UV blocking sunglasses. Small things, both of them, unremarkable at the time. What I didn't understand is that hearing loss isn't just an inconvenience of old age. It is now one of the most significant modifiable risk factors for dementia identified by the Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention. Researchers believe the cognitive effort required to process degraded sound over years contributes to mental fatigue and may accelerate decline. Social withdrawal caused by hearing difficulty. Avoiding conversations because they're frustrating, turning down invitations because you can't follow what's being said, compounds the isolation problem we discussed earlier. And vision decline, particularly from conditions like macular degeneration and cataracts, dramatically reduces quality of life, increases fall risk, limits driving ability, and restricts independence in ways that affect almost every dimension of daily living. Both of these things can be meaningfully protected against, or at least slowed, with habits started in your 50s. Hearing protection in loud environments. Quality sunglasses. Regular eye and hearing exams to catch changes early. Nutrition that supports eye health. These are not complicated interventions, but like most preventive habits, their value is invisible until the day you desperately wish you'd started them. Now, if you stayed this far, I want to share 3 things that most people genuinely don't know. These aren't common advice. These are insights that come from looking at aging research honestly and deeply. The first insight is about purpose, and it's more biological than you'd expect. There's a concept researchers have studied called ikigai, a Japanese word roughly meaning your reason for getting up in the morning. Scientists studying exceptionally long-lived populations in Japan, Sardinia, and Costa Rica found something striking. The people who maintained a strong sense of purpose into their 80s and 90s had measurably better health outcomes than those who didn't. Not just better mood, better outcomes. Lower rates of cardiovascular disease, stronger immune response, lower incidence of Alzheimer's. A study from Rush University Medical Center followed older adults for years and found that those with a strong sense of purpose were significantly less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. The researchers believe purpose may create a kind of cognitive reserve, a mental resilience that allows the brain to function well even when physical changes are occurring. What this means practically is that protecting your purpose, staying invested in something that matters to you, whether that's family, community, craft, faith, or service, is not soft advice. It is a neurological strategy. The second insight is about the danger of retiring from everything. There is a documented phenomenon researchers call the retirement mortality dip, a period shortly after full retirement where health outcomes, for some people, actually worsen rather than improve. The reason isn't rest or inactivity alone. It's the simultaneous loss of structure, identity, social connection, intellectual stimulation, and sense of contribution that work, whatever its frustrations, quietly provided. People who retire into something, a new project, a volunteer role, a skill they're learning, a community they're serving, tend to fare dramatically better than people who retire away from stress without a replacement structure. The lesson for your 50s is not to work forever, but to begin building the life you're retiring into before you stop working, not after. The third insight involves something called epigenetic age, and it may be the most surprising. Scientists can now measure not just your chronological age, but your biological age, how old your cells actually are relative to a healthy baseline. These are called epigenetic clocks, and studies using them have produced a remarkable finding. People with the same chronological age can have biological ages that differ by a decade or more, based largely on lifestyle choices accumulated over their adult years. What this means is that aging is not fixed. It is, to a significant and scientifically documented degree, plastic. The habits you maintain in your 50s, sleep, exercise, stress management, nutrition, connection, are literally influencing how quickly or slowly your cells age. You are not just adding years to your life. You are changing the quality of the biology you'll be living in. If there's a single thread connecting everything we've talked about today, it's this. The most important decisions of your later life are almost never made in your later life. They're made years earlier, in moments that feel too small to matter, in habits that feel too minor to change, in conversations that feel too uncomfortable to have. The 75-year-old looking back doesn't regret the big dramatic mistakes. They regret the quiet ones. The slow drift away from friends. The years of poor sleep. The doctor's appointments unkept. The emotions left unprocessed. The body slowly weakened by inactivity while they told themselves they'd get serious about it next year. But here's what I want you to hear, and I want you to hear it clearly. None of these regrets require you to have been a different person. They require only that you had better information at the right time. And that's exactly what today was about. If you're in your 50s, you have something extraordinary. You have time and the ability to act on what you now know. If you're in your 60s or 70s, almost none of these doors are closed. They may require more effort to open, but they're not locked. The brain remains changeable. The body remains responsive to care. Friendships can still be rebuilt. Conversations can still be had. Purpose can still be found or deepened. Aging well isn't about perfection. It's about honest, consistent attention to the things that actually matter and the willingness to act on that attention before the cost of waiting becomes too high. Take one thing from today's video and do something with it this week. Not next month. This week. Make the appointment. Send the message. Take the walk. Have the conversation. Start small, start honestly, and start now. If this video helped you, consider subscribing for more practical insights on healthy aging, retirement, and living well after 60. There's more ahead, and the best of it is worth staying for.